Okay, right. I think we've got sort of the bulk of people in. I reckon more people will sort of join us over the next 5 minutes or so, but I'd like to sort of get going so we stick to time. So thank you everyone for being here today. My name's Katie. I'm the MBA and Alumni Officer for Kent Business School. And I really wanted to host this event as we have a lot of fantastic alumni. Our community is incredible. We've got thousands of people that we speak to on a regular basis, and they're forever sharing their stories and their knowledge with us, which is amazing. And so this event really is focusing on our sort of finance and accounting alumni. I've been speaking with quite a few recently for different reasons, and the two I've got with me today, and we're quite keen to come on this webinar and sort of share some of their knowledge with you. We decided to do it around FinTech because we've got Dr. Herbert with us today, and that's his speciality. And we thought, what a great topic of conversation. It's something that we all talk about a lot. So why not learn a little bit more? Unfortunately, we can't give any advice on cryptocurrency today. So you might have to keep those questions to yourself, but hopefully we can sort of give you a little bit of an inside knowledge into how it works here at the university. So what I'll do is I'll do a quick intro to each three of our panelists today. They'll then give you a little bit of information about themselves, a bit of an introduction, and then after that we'll go to a bit of a panel Q&A, and then hopefully at the end we'll have time for some audience Q&A as well. So to get started, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Asa. So he's our Senior Lecturer in Finance and FinTech and the Programme Director of the MSc Financial Technology here at Kent Business School. So over to you, please, Herbert.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm very excited to be here. I'm a senior lecturer in finance and fintech, and also the director of two programs, fintech and finance and management. So this is a new program, the fintech program that we run it at Kent Business School. We have already quite a few very good students. The first year we started with 16 students, and we are growing. Next year we're going to have a higher number of students who will come here at Kent Business School. So what I've done for today, I prepared a presentation. So I'm going to talk about fintech in general, and also talk about what is the meaning of studying fintech. So as you know, finance world is a gigantic world. You have banks and insurances, hedge funds, financial institutions, exchange markets, money market, capital market, and all those type of things that you always have been interested in. But the question is, this is very much like the planet Earth we are living on, but the question is whether this planet Earth, which is gigantic enough. And if you go to the next slide, you see not, because we can think of the galaxy, perhaps Milky Way galaxy. And comparing to that, it seems that it is not. This is the idea behind fintech. Actually, technology is expanding the border of finance world beyond our imagination. Technology is doing that for almost everything, not only for finance, but what is of our concern is how technology can expand the border of our finance world. What is the meaning of that? Essentially, technology is helping us to expand the world from the numbers that we know. For example, we know around 1 billion people now around the world have access to banking, but there are hopes that in very near future, just in few years, we can expand it at least to 2 billion people. That is only just about the number of people who have access to banks, but you can add to that how many new services going to be added to this. So that is majorly the aim of expanding the border of finance world. Next, please. So, but what is fintech? The definition is very simple. It's financial technologies is innovative use of technology in the design and delivery of financial services. You can think of any technology. It is not only about AI or blockchain, which is Bitcoin. These are the two major technologies that usually people think of, but any kind of technology that you can think of and can help finance world is part of FinTech. For example, even the ATM machines, which are mechanical machines to some extent, this is part of the FinTech and how you can actually use that in order to deliver a better financial service. But anyhow, most of the discussions, as I said, is mostly around AI and blockchain technology. But what is the meaning of studying FinTech? This is important because we are running this FinTech program here at Kent Business School. In our program, essentially, we focus on actually what type of business models that use technology are helping the finance world. We are mostly concerned about the business models. For example, as I will actually discuss, for example, in banking, we have banking as a platform, which is a new kind of business model that is changing the whole banking actually industry. Next, please. Yeah, but what is behind the scene? Why we are moving towards that direction? This is something that I want to discuss in these two slides. Apparently, it is about mobile and smartphones because we are facing a new generation of people who grow with mobile. For them, mobile is a natural thing. They think that everything should happen in this very small device. That includes banking as well. So that is why the imagination is why we should go to a physical branch like our generation to do banking. And for that reason, we need a technology that can support every aspect of banking on this small device. But how that happen? Next, please. Actually, this was a very nice coincidence to some extent, I would say. We have to go back to 2008, the year that financial crisis 2008 happened. Actually, it was a very, very important year, I would say. This was a year that all finance world has changed, and still we are seeing how changes are taking place. Actually, the reason of financial crisis to some extent, very briefly, was about the greed of the financial system. So regulator actually took the control of the market and say, now we are going to put more regulation because it seems that market is not moving towards its self-interest, right? But at the same time, we had Steve Jobs who introduced iPhone to the market, and this coincidence was really interesting because people were thinking, if we get more regulation, we cannot do more financial innovations relative to, for example, relevant to creating new financial tools, then we can leverage technology in order to have more efficient banking and finance system. And that is the beginning of the story, that how now we are moving from a world that is based on financial innovation towards a world that is based on technological innovation and helping to expand the finance world. Next, please. So this is helping us to be more customer-centric. In the past, it was like more financial institutions were in charge, but nowadays it is all about customers, because all customers have access to mobile phones. For that reason, they have become the real entities. Their data are available, and their data is the most important bit that now we are leveraging and using in order to expand our finance world. And that is one of the most important things that we are seeing in these changes. Next, please. So the general aspects of FinTech that I want really you to think of include banking. Actually, I would say at this point, more than 50% of FinTech is about banking and what we can do with money. When I say banking, everything relevant to money. For example, you can think of different technologies like pay tech or banking as a platform or banking as a service. All these type of things are included in that. The other aspect is AI and cloud computing and how that changed this actually the way that banks are working and actually functioning nowadays, how we are using them. And then blockchain technology, apparently this is a technology that is behind Bitcoins, but there are much more applications for them. They are also the other aspects of FinTech that are changing our world. And apparently we also have to think of RegTech, that means how to regulate all these new things that are changing our finance world. Next, please. And there are very good examples that we can discuss if you want during this panel. For example, we have banking as a platform where we are setting up a system that a bank is running a platform where instead of doing a traditional borrowing lending business, which is a traditional banking business, you're just running a platform that gives a lot of different services on the system. I'm not sure if you have worked with Starling Bank or Monzo or whatever. They are online banks. There is no branch for them, but they have a wonderful platform that give us a lot of different services that you wouldn't usually see for traditional banks. And this is the way that they can handle their own clients. We also have banking as a service. Banking as a service is where banks go on the background and they provide the service for banking. For example, the payment can be done through their system, and this is happening only because of the technology. In this setup, the clients are not for the bank. The clients are for the business that are running the business, but banks are providing service in order to make the payment happening. And we also have banking as an infrastructure. For example, banks become like a utility. For example, think of water utility that is providing service to everybody now in the town, which was not in place like 200 years ago. Now banking is becoming like a service. That means you can use it on demand, for example, just for 2 hours or 1 hour, very much like a water tap that you open it. We also have cryptocurrency and definance. That means decentralized finance, finance that is not only based on huge financial entities, it is based on individual clients. And this is happening now very much. We also have actually AI that is used in fraud detection or robo-advisory and many other aspects of financial technology. And finally, regulation that is really much the things that we want to think of. And I bring it in the questions at the end. So yeah, that is the way I wanted to introduce you to the FinTech world. We have also a few questions if you want. I'm not sure if I have to ask them now.
I think we'll save the questions. We'll
yes.
yeah, we'll have.
Yeah, it is very much relevant to the presentation.
Yeah.
But anyhow, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. And it gives us, like, for someone like myself who doesn't have any background in banking whatsoever or finance, it does kind of give me a little bit of an eye-opener of what all these kind of acronyms mean and what all these words mean. So that was really useful for me. But I think probably the people on the call have a little bit more insight than I do. So thank you so much for that. So now I'd like to introduce you to Chibunga. So she's one of our alumni here from KBS. She's currently on a graduate trainee program of a leading Pan-African bank in Zambia. So over to you, Chibunga.
Thank you so much, Katie, and good afternoon, everyone. I just want to start by saying it's an absolute honor to be speaking to you all here today. So thank you, Katie, thank you, Herbert, and the rest of the faculty for extending the invitation. I'm a huge fan of the Uni of Kent because I had such an amazing time there. So you'll see on my starting slide, I've put my contact details, my email address, and my LinkedIn, just for anyone who wants to reach out concerning advice on my journey at Kent or even my employment search after. that's there for you to use. I'm very passionate about personal development and finance, so I'm always happy to assist in this arena. So as Katie mentioned, I'm a Zambian citizen, so I attended the Uni of Kent as an international student. Overall, I studied in the UK for about 6 years. So for any international students who are on the call, I've been in your shoes, and I'm happy to share what my experience was like as well. So next slide. So I'll just start with giving a brief overview of my education history. So I recently graduated from the Uni of Kent with an MSc in Finance and Management. I got a distinction in my dissertation, a distinction overall, and I was the recipient of the Director of Studies Award for my program. And really, I owe that success to the academic support I received at KBS, whether it was through my tutors, like my academic tutor, Mr. Herbert, reaching out to my different lecturers, or even reaching out to my KBS librarian. It remains one of the hardest things I've done academically thus far. I too have cried in Templeman Library. I'm sure a lot of students can relate to that, but I really just took every lifeline that the university offered, and it really paid off. So before that, I completed a BA Honours in Business Management from the Uni of Leeds. I completed a first-year diploma in Business Management from Bellerbys in London, and then a foundation certificate in Humanities and Social Sciences from into Newcastle University. So as you can see, when the government granted me a visa to study in the UK, I used it to my full advantage and studied everywhere. Going to the next slide. So here is an overview of the skills that I gained throughout my academic journey. And the reason that I wanted to highlight this today is because the skills that are emboldened are skills that I discovered or improved practicality to my course and the modules that I studied, and that translates into my work today. So one of the first tasks I remember that I was asked to do in my current role was financial statement analysis, which is something I learned at Kent in my accounting module. So this is just one of the examples out of many. In fact, I still refer to my notes today to assist me with my work. So it's been really helpful. And with the shift in the job market towards competency-based pre-employment assessments, it's no longer just about what qualifications you have, it's really what you can do. So for students on the call, the course is an excellent training ground to enhance your skill set. Going to the next slide. So as Katie mentioned, I am currently a graduate trainee at Absa Bank Zambia PLC. We're a subsidiary of a larger banking group. It's one of the leading Pan-African groups on the continent. We have a presence in over 10 African countries, and we have securities entities in the US and the UK. We've also been in operation for over 100 years, previously under Barclays Africa. So the graduate program is an 18-month rotational program. I started with corporate and investment banking, where the technical skills that I gained at Kent were extremely vital. Skills like financial statement analysis, investment appraisal techniques, bond valuation, how to calculate CAPM. So that really allowed me to acclimatize to my work even quicker. Right now, I'm currently stationed in the executive office as part of their strategy team, where I help drive and monitor the bank's overall strategy and support the CEO in her activities. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thanks so much for sharing that. It's fantastic. And it's lovely to see kind of what journey you've taken through your studies and then into your graduate trainee program. And I think, you know, for anyone on the call, it's just really important to see what options there are out there. Even for our alumni that have joined us on the call today, it's nice to see kind of where you've decided to take your degree and your master's and you know, what direction you've gone with it and how many choices there are out there. And like you say, you've got to go and get them. So thank you so much for sharing that. And what I'll do, I'll just move on to the final slide. So now I would like to introduce you to Sahib. So he is also one of our alumnus here and is currently working as a senior auditor and accountant and is on the path to becoming a chartered accountant. So we're quite excited to hear a little bit more from you, Sahib.
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is having a good time at the webinar today. So as Katie introduced, I'm a senior auditor and accountant at Hainesworth, which is within the top 15 accounting firms. So firstly, with the education side, I graduated in accounting and finance from University of Kent, and also then I transferred to Leeds Beckett University. So 1 year at Leeds Beckett and 3 years at University of Kent. So I've got exposure of both universities. While my time at KBS, as of course Shabanga mentioned, we had a great support overall because of the societies we were offered to take part in, the lecturers, the directors, everyone was keen to help you succeed in your passion, basically. So yeah, I graduated with accounting and finance and got a distinction, thankfully. Now, of course, people say that first year is not important, but I see it as a change point of view, because I say every year is important, because every year you're developing something new. And of course, when you put it into your CV, you can mention first year that you got a distinction or whatever good grade you have grasped. Now, moving on to my employment, I started as an assistant auditor with RSM, which was within the top 5 accounting firms. Now, I was with RSM for about a year, and then I advanced up to Haynes Watt to become a semi-senior auditor. While I was a semi-senior auditor, within a month only, I got offered a position of senior auditor and accountant. So I was like, let's take on this challenge and see what this holds. Now, of course, the employers were very much helpful in saying that whether you're accepting this role or not, because of course it will have its own challenges, because I will be leading my own files. But I must say I'm glad that I accepted the challenge, because the new things I've learned and developed really make me confident in going to the new clients and interacting with them and getting the audit file signed off. So that's with my employment. Now I'm enrolled to become a ACCA chartered accountant. So I'm still within the qualification progress, and I've got 3 months left more to be qualified by experience. So of course, hard work is paying off, a long journey. I've always had interest with numbers and multiplying those numbers. So that's why I chose accounting and finance. Now, I received this academic excellence scholarship while being a KBS student. So that was because of the continuous grades progression and getting distinctions for 3 years. Now, that helped, of course, set off my, because I was, as Shabanga was an international student, I was classified as an international student for the 3 years. So yeah, I've had exposure of all those sort of things that international students face. Now, I've always had interest with businesses, stocks, crypto. So I do that personally myself, especially that developed more when the COVID strike, because I was made furloughed for 2 months. I was like, we have to do something new instead of just sitting at home. So that's how I got introduced into this market. But yeah, if you are keen to speak to me about anything KBS or employments or chartered accountancy, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I should have put my LinkedIn contact over there, but if you search for my name and just put auditor next, you'll find me, and I'll be happy to connect and help. So yeah, that's all from me for now, and let's see how this carries on forward. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks so much, Sahib. And feel free, if all of you want to put your LinkedIn details in the chat, and then that way people can just click straight in there. Again, if anyone wants to put any comments in the chat, feel free to, and there is the Q&A button to use as well, which we can pick up on in a bit. So brilliant. Well, what I'll do, I'll stop sharing my screen now. We've been through the presentations. So what I'd like Herbod to do, please, is he's got a couple of questions lined up for our panel, and they're very fintech based, and our panel have had a bit of time to work on these to give their views and their answers. So I'm quite excited to see what they have to say. And while they're answering these, if you do have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A. It'll be great to hear from you, and we can really test everyone's brains. So Herbod, back over to you. Oh, you're just muted.
Yes. Okay, I'm ready now. Okay, so there are a few questions I really much want to discuss this in our panel. Okay, as I discussed, the financial crisis 2008 actually changed our perspective toward finance world, because we know after that we got a lot of regulation in place, and for that reason we moved toward technology. Even I would say regulator has encouraged that a lot, because that was a way in order to get a financial institution more out of creating new and innovative financial tools that would ultimately, without enough checking, result in another crisis. So, but actually, there are then I can draw some, line of analogy between this and the COVID-19 that we already have experienced, all of us, and asking the same question that in light of changes under the financial crisis 2008, do you think that it's going to be any role for COVID-19 to change our finance world, and particularly to help progress the fintech world. What is the role of COVID-19 in the
So
progress?
I'll let you two fight over who's going to answer that one first.
Yes, I can read all the questions, but this is the first one. It is really, really important because COVID-19 is changing many aspects. Like
Definitely.
we are holding an online meeting now, right? So that wouldn't been happening. I mean, if COVID was not.
I mean, thank you for the question, Herbert. I mean, I can go first if that's okay with Shabanga, and then maybe she can pick up. Now, I would agree that COVID-19 has given us a lot of different perspectives of how the working environment is, how the life operates. As you said, there was no concept of working from home as much as it is now. Like an employer wouldn't think out of the box thinking that working from home could save time, travel, commute time for the people who are coming from far away. And instead, that time can be used for efficient purposes. So that's something which developed a lot for people, and of course that gave a good life work balance as well with work from home facilities. Now definitely some people enjoy working from home, some people don't. I always say people who don't enjoy, they're probably living under a mile away only from the workplace. Like for example, for myself, I live about it's a 100-mile round trip for me to the workplace, so I quite prefer working from home when it's possible, but when not, I go to clients. So yeah, that's something COVID-19 developed. Then for people who got redundant, furloughed, they had to think about something else to, of course, help themselves survive within the economical crisis as well. So they started with FinTech technologies, like people got enrolled into stocks, crypto markets, and all those sort of things. Personally, I went a lot into stocks because that was a secure thing for me to do, and I learned a lot because of the professional skepticism you need for that, business acumen. You learn more about the companies because you're always researching how the graphs are operating or how the company is performing. So that's something COVID-19 introduced me a lot. Of course, it had a disadvantage, sadly, for people who passed away. But at the other end, positively, if you see, these are the things that developed within the COVID-19. So yeah, that was my answer. So let's see if anyone wants to pick up on that.
Yeah, thank you, Sohaib. Maybe I can just jump in with my response as well. I'm going to speak generally and from the perspective of the Zambian market because I think it really provides an interesting twist. So generally, fintechs during the season introduced efficiencies into business operations, and we're able to see things like e-signatures, secure document transfer portals, safe stationery, and this cheapened the cost of doing business. Various fintech innovations that have come out of the consequence of the pandemic, safety restrictions have shown us that you don't need brick and mortar offices to run your business. It also allowed for businesses to review their processes that were traditional and manual, and that brought about the acceleration of automation. Now, for a country like Zambia, where cash is still king, COVID-19 accelerated the use of what we call e-money or virtual money. So commercial banks, in collaboration with fintechs, mainly mobile network operators, were able to see a significant penetration in the usage of mobile money. So for those on the call who are not aware, mobile money is an electronic wallet where users are able to send, store, receive money using their mobile phone, irrespective of whether it's a smartphone or you've got a basic USSD, blue screen phone. So you're able to transact away from the traditional bank-to-bank funds transfer. And in urban areas, we've also observed a huge reduction in the usage of cash because with mobile money, you can transact anytime. It gives you access to microcredit. There is a minimal KYC requirement. It can be used as a savings tool. So it's cheaper for SMEs to use even for their businesses. And it's helped improve overall service delivery. And Herbert had alluded to that earlier, talking about a customer-centric focus of fintech. So even though our world is returning to some sort of semblance of pre-COVID business operations, we're seeing that mobile money in this market, the usage is still really high. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Shall we carry on? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. yeah. I'm very happy actually with the answers. I mean, yes, that definitely changed perspective towards all activities that we do, right? As you mentioned, this is all about how we can do things remotely, but that stayed with us, right? This has positive and negative side, but we are hopefully thinking of how we can using the positive side more in the finance world. Yes, this type of, face recognition, e-signature, all these things now are happening on a regular basis. that wouldn't happen in the past. The second question that I want to ask the panel is about cryptocurrency. First of all, do you think that cryptocurrency is going to dominate national currencies?
I mean, I don't think for now, but I think the research shows that by 2030, 25% would be eliminated, the national currencies. But for now, the given situation, the regulations and everything, I personally believe it might not dominate it. Like, for example, Tesla was accepting Bitcoin at once, but May 21, they stopped accepting the Bitcoin. So that's what I've researched so far about it.
Yeah, I think I'll have to agree with Sohaib. I think in the short to medium term, we're not going to see that, crypto is going to dominate national currencies because, like you said, cybersecurity remains a major concern for most governments, and central banks are still assessing how they track financial crime because, with crypto, sometimes it's very hard to assess where the payment is actually coming from. And I think that skepticism has increased even more after the 2022 crypto crash with the fall of major exchanges like FTX and Luna. And I think the total estimated loss is about $2 trillion, which is huge. So a lot of that has really increased the skepticism in the market, and I don't think we'll see a complete transition anytime soon. And even furthermore, when I think of markets such as ours, there's also issues of acceptance, change management. We have platforms like M-Pesa, which is like Africa's biggest, most successful mobile money service. It's our largest FinTech platform on the continent. It did really well in one country, in Kenya, but the uptake has been slower in other markets due to that skepticism. So in reference to crypto and our part of the world, we have to consider the intricacies. Those are very important. What form will it take? Is it something that we can transact on USDD platform? Will it affect financial inclusion? What is the gap in terms of financial infrastructure and technology needed to support mass usage of crypto? So when we look at those, we start to see that actually we're quite far off.
And I would expand on Shabanga's point of view. Like, banks have basically restricted on depositing the money. Like, some banks are not even promoting it. So there is a lot of hindrances basically in promoting crypto. And then also we need to be considerate about the generation gap. Like, it's still at this point in 21st century, we have people who don't even use online banking. So if crypto dominates the fiat currency, will those people be comfortable in making the transactions via crypto or not? So that's something we need to be considerate about as well for the time being. That's all from me. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, there are many reasons why, people believe that cryptocurrency is not going to dominate the national currencies or centralized currencies, I would say. Even in few years, you may see some currencies that are not belonging to a nation. For example, now we are working with currencies that only belong to one nation, or except euro, right? Euro belongs to many nations. So we perhaps see currencies of this type, but all of them are centralized, right? But decentralized currency like cryptocurrency, yes, there are a lot of discussion why they cannot dominate. Another reason that I also want to raise, it's all about the central banking, because we know actually, okay, money is a mean of actually to transfer value, right? That is one of the things. But on the other hand, it's also a tool in the hand of central banks in order to handle economy, right? For example, when we are facing inflation, only central bank has this actually has enough power to change the situation. Now we see it in UK. You're increasing the interest rate, even though it's painful for people who want to have mortgage, for example, who want to borrow. But this is a very good tool in order to reduce inflation, right? Because when we can reduce inflation, then the economy, the prices are stabilized. And for that reason, then we can think of fixing the economy, right? Before stabilizing prices, we cannot fix the economy, right? So this is the tool that is only happening if we have a central money, right? And if we remove central money, then we are to some extent toothless, right? So I think, yes, the strongest reason is that we really need to endow the state entities like central bank, like government, all these things with some sort of a tool that can help economy at the time that that we need it, right? But this is exactly against the idea of Nakamoto. You know, Nakamoto is the person who introduced cryptocurrency in the first place, because he was thinking that the finance world is very much corrupt, and for that reason we need to create a money that that is not centralized. That means it is not based on any centralized government, right? And nobody has a control on that. The control belongs to people who hold it, right? But still, having centralized money in democratic countries like UK is very helpful, because we know that we can use it to the benefit of the economy. Okay, so now let me ask the third question and the last question, which is really important. I mean, what is the government approach to regulate fintech, especially decentralized entities like cryptocurrencies, right? I mean, even in the module that I teach for fintech, I think this is the most controversial part, right? Because it seems that, for example, for decentralized finance, that means a finance that is not based on any centralized entity like central bank or government, and it is all based on the people who are in the system. I mean, based on a decentralized entity. It seems that we cannot set any regulation, right? But still, we need to regulate that. For example, if we want to stop any tax evasion, something like that, right? So now the question is, what is your opinion on this? That how fintech world in general and cryptocurrencies and DeFi in particular can be regulated?
Can I go ahead, Shabanga, if that's okay? Oh.
Yes, you can say.
Well, I mean, this part, as you said, Dr. Herbert, is very like black and white area again. Now, what my knowledge shows and the research shows as well, like like every country has, of course, their own financial regulatory body. Like within the UK, the FCA doesn't really cover the crypto, so people are just investing into crypto with their own choice. Some people are risk takers, some are risk averse. So it solely depends on the type of person. With governments, there's very limited support or regulation being provided towards the crypto. Now, the main reason I perceive it as because there's no backing of a data. For example, if you're investing in a stock, you know that there are graphs, there are background of the business, how far like for example, let's say Tesla, if there is a dip in the business, you'll know that there will be a boom if the quarter results are better. So with crypto, it's a very volatile market, and I believe that is why the governments are very reluctant to regularize it. So that's my opinion so far on your question, Dr. Herbert.
Just let me add this. Actually, crypto.
Yeah.
Actually, even if government is willing to regulate that, they cannot, because it doesn't belong to anybody, right? That's the problem.
Exactly. That's the problem.
So now I'm challenging you with that. That's how we regulate something that does not belong to anybody.
Absolutely. Like as I said, there is no backing of data. Like it's all like blockchain and everything. So as you said, I agree with you. There's no like regulation, like government can't do anything about it. Whereas if it was a stock, the government can do something to protect or regularize it. But with crypto, there's not really backing of a data at all.
Yes.
So that's all.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes. And just to add on to what Sohaib has said, I think I agree that, entities such as these are still very much in their financial infancy, but we are seeing some governments provide regulatory provisions so they can balance innovation and consumer protection. So things like licensing and registration, ensuring that companies are adhering to certain standards to do with anti-money laundering and KYC. Also, safeguarding the rights of consumers through fraud prevention and dispute resolution mechanisms. And then thirdly, which I think is really important, is market integrity and financial stability remains really key for governments when they look at crypto and how it can be used as legal tender. I know particularly for our market, cryptocurrency is not even legal tender in Zambia, but the government is making efforts to assess how they can introduce regulations around cryptocurrency. So until they come up with a framework to support it, it remains an area of growth in certain parts of the world. So, and then a lot of crypto enthusiasts, even in our markets, are choosing to participate remotely because they can't do so from where they are. So that's my opinion on your answer.
Yes, great. Actually, yeah, I definitely like your answer. I mean, yes, we have to improve the standards. I mean, the places that we can put regulation, for example, KYC, and knowing your client is really important, because if you know a client and you know that the client is not going to do tax evasion by using cryptocurrency, right? So this is one way to avoid actually any wrongdoing. And another approach is just to look at the gateways, right? So because people say that if tax money goes away somewhere, it's going to pop up another place, right? So because ultimately it should be spent, right? So that's why you also can regulate the gateways. That's another point that you can consider. But overall, I mean, for fintech world, not just cryptocurrency, one important approach is to actually improve our knowledge about technology, right? This is something that a regulator needs really to consider. Actually, in UK, I know that they are doing that. They are hiring a lot of different people, data scientists, computer experts, many of these type of people who know these things, right? And this is really difficult, how to coordinate between the people who know finance and people who know just computer, right? Computer science. Because nowadays it's about AI, it's about computer science, right? But this is to some extent happening. So one thing is really important, and that is improving our knowledge about technology. That wouldn't be very much an issue in the old finance world, right? But now it's becoming really, really important. Okay, thank you very much. I asked all my questions for the panel.
Thank you so much, all three of you. That was really interesting. Like I say, from someone who doesn't come from that background, hearing your answers, it kind of gives a really concise snapshot into kind of that area. So thank you. And we do have a couple of audience questions already. And I think there's another one just popped in as well. So I'll start with, I think it's Arian. What is the situation of graduate jobs programs in finance and audit offered by MNCs? So I don't know, Dr. Herbert, if you're maybe best to answer that at the moment, and then the others can kind of come in maybe with their advice on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, in the promotion sessions usually we have for our students, we have a very good slide. We show the name of the companies that our student usually actually already got into, I mean, as intern or other things. The prospect is very positive in Kent Business School, because we are very close to London and we got very active the finance department. The program that I'm running, student, I always advise that they should start from the very beginning of their studies. If they are willing to do, for example, the MSc program, which is 1-year program, if they want to do internship or any type of placement, something like that. So, I mean, and that's definitely actually something that you can consider, and it's very positive. And that is for, I want to say it for international students, not only for home students. This is very much happening to all kind of students. And I mean, the proximity to London is definitely a big plus. But that also depends on the due diligence. I mean, how much time you want to spend on finding a good position. That's really important. I knew people who did it because they spend a lot of time searching for a position. Yes, I mean, that's very positive.
Okay, bro, and I'll go over to Chibunga maybe, and obviously you've given us a little bit of a background on getting your job and going into your graduate training program. But I mean, how did you find the market when you were looking? Is there any advice or anything you can kind of add to that, please?
Yeah, thank you, Katie. When I was looking for a postgraduate job, I found the market to be very, very competitive. And that's why I was saying that you need to sort of shift your focus from just getting the qualification to what skills you can do, because Those are the sort of things that set you apart. And also to Herbort's point, it's quite time consuming. So I think you also have to look at the university, look at the support that they're going to offer you and leverage that. I visited the Career Center often. I know the Uni of Kent has something called the Employability Point Scheme, which is something you can take advantage. You rack up the points, and if you get enough points, you can exchange that for work experiences. And just, I think the practice of continuously applying, the more you do it, it can be demoralizing because getting all the rejections, but the more you do it, the better you get at it, because it is very competitive. And that's what I saw was a feature even in the Zambian job market, which is quite different to the UK. So it was all those hours of practice, the work that I had done with the Career Center, just really reading up and just setting myself apart is what allowed me to excel as I was applying for the graduate job. We had, I think, about 1,000 applicants for this position, which for our markets is a lot, and we were able to reduce that down to 10. So if you think of, how crazy it can get, you really need to bring your A game, and the uni is there to support you in doing that. Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, I was going to say the Careers and Employability Service, absolutely, as an alumni, you still have access to it for a few years after you've graduated. So it's just a reminder to anyone on the call that they have access to that. So hey, how about you in terms of finding your job?
Oh, right. Okay. So of course, as Shubhanga said, the market is very competitive, but that doesn't mean that securing a job is impossible, because if there's a will, there is a way. I strongly believe in that. Now, I'll give two experiences. One of them was a placement. So finding a placement was very tough for me. I applied for over 100 places, but around, I think among 850 people, 8 of them were selected, and I worked for Inchcape Audi. So it's a MLC, and I secured my placement over there. What I was doing to keep myself on track was that every day I had a spare time of like hour and a half or two to apply for the applications. Then I was maintaining a spreadsheet which showed my tracking of if I've been interviewed or if I've got a psychometric test to do, and that showed me my track and kept me up to date with everything. Because of course, when you're applying for jobs, you need to keep yourself up to date with how the market is floating. Now, this was for my placement, and I had people who basically gave up on placement and they didn't secure one. So the main point I would suggest everyone is don't give up, apply as much as you can, because if not one thing, other thing will come up. Now, with graduate jobs, of course, I had an experience secured with Audi. I only applied for 30 places, I think, and I secured the job role within RSM as a graduate. So that was a good achievement. But within your time at university, I would suggest do your volunteering work, be an active part of social societies. As Chabanga and Katie as well mentioned, there is a Careers Employability Center. So use that. I remember still securing my work experience through my EPS point. So that clicked in my mind when they mentioned it. So yeah, there are facilities there, but you need to be, of course, self-motivated to secure the opportunity. So that's all from me for this.
No, brilliant. Thank you. That's really helpful. And hopefully that answered Arian's question. And we've got one from Peter as well. So do the panelists worry about people who are not tech savvy, I can't even speak, getting left behind? So he chairs the patient's participation for a GP, and a major issue is the elderly having trouble coping with the NHS technology. For example, receptionists have been trained to help, but it's not always the case with the finance side of things. So is that something you can see being a problem in the future, and how might we tackle that?
Right. I mean, I can go ahead with this one. Now, I always suggest this to everyone who is still in their career state development, because Microsoft Excel is one of the important part of the financial and everything. Can you hear me well, Katie? Oh, sorry, I got confused. No, so having a Microsoft Excel and Office knowledge is really helpful. For example, I'm in audit, so I'm using spreadsheets every day. And if you have got a good, strong knowledge on Microsoft Excel, the formulas on it, it will help you for the future security. Now, of course, it's not important that you have the in-depth knowledge, but having a basic knowledge of how Microsoft Office applications work, that's very vital. That's a suggestion from me. Now, of course, AI is taking over a lot of things, and there are other software, Sage and others, for example. But yeah, I would say having a Microsoft basic knowledge is very important.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Sohaib has said, I think when we think about adapting to financial technologies, we need to consider change management. We need to meet people where they are in terms of their financial literacy and just assist them in that journey. And I'm finding that even in my career now, when we sort of introduce new projects, it starts with the mindset. It's really just encouraging people that this is something that they can embrace and they don't have to limit themselves. The phone is a really good reminder, because at some point, nobody even considered the possibility of having a personal phone. It was too complex. You'd have your office phone and just, but now we use it and we've adapted. So we need to adopt that mindset of we can actually do this, and it's not too hard. Yes, there are things to consider like age, your experience with technology, financial inclusion, especially when we talk about financial products and financial literacy. But again, bringing it down to people's level, where are they? How can we meet them there and then help them transition on that journey?
Fantastic, thank you both. I've got another couple of questions, so I'm just conscious before we run out of time. I'll try and get them all answered for everyone. So another question we've had, it's anonymous, but how hard would it be for a student coming from a BSc Maths to adapt into maybe a Master's in Finance? So Herbert, that's probably a question for you. Is that something you've seen? So Maths to Finance, is it a transition that's quite normal? Any advice you could offer?
Yes, I would say that's quite normal. Even I got a PhD in math, so you see, it's very normal to change to finance. I mean, because finance now has a lot of quantitative aspects, right? Except that we also got a lot of technology now behind everything, right? So for two of our programs, at least I know that we check the quantitative skills of the students. Particularly for FinTech, MSc in FinTech, and also MSc in Finance and Risk, right? And Risk Management. Particularly Finance and Risk Management needs more of quantitative skills. And FinTech also needs a little bit of technology skills. But we see a lot of applicants from engineering, from mathematics. We design our program in a way that students can get enough knowledge about finance that they need during the course of their MSc program. For example, we have one specific module which is Foundation of Finance. So we teach everything that people need about finance in that. Not everything, but still get them to the point that they can feel convenient with that. So that's why I would even recommend, because this is one of the skills that can be very helpful. I mean, quantitative skills, which is based on mathematics, statistics, computer science, and those type of things. Yes, of course, this is a very normal change. We see that very much.
Thank you so much. Hopefully that's helped the person who was asking. I have one more kind of generic sort of FinTech finance query, which is, which regions in the world do you perceive to be the most successful adopters of FinTech? And what's your perception of London remaining a global financial centre in the future? So maybe Shabanga, do you want to start and then we'll work round?
Yes, giving me the tough question. I thought that's a really good question. I think when we think of regions, and sort of looking at my experience having, from Zambia, we need to move away from regions and what we perceive might not work in a certain place and start to ask, what is the need and what is the solution that I could provide? Because even when mobile money was being introduced into our market, it sounded like a very foreign, concept. We're working towards financial inclusion as a country. We've got a goal to get everybody banked, basically. The traditional definition of financial inclusion is banked. And actually having mobile money has taken away from that, but people are accessing financial services. So it was a very foreign concept when it was introduced, but the companies that have come into the market were able to identify that there's a need and provide a solution for it. So that, I think, should be your go-to. You can find, even in the most remote of regions, even in the places that you feel lack the financial infrastructure, you could successfully start up a FinTech. And then secondly, on London remaining a global financial center, personally, I think that may shift away even as we progress with FinTech, as we start to work more remotely. And I think it'll become a bit more decentralized, basically. And we'll start to see mini, centers, financial hubs all across the world. I think that's the way we're going to go with it. I don't know if Sohaib wants to jump in on that.
I mean, yeah, I see where you're coming from, Shabanga, and I think it all depends on where you're finding the right opportunities. Whether, like, of course, London has got like beautiful buildings where the financial hub is situated and everything. But again, if you move on to, for example, Manchester side, Birmingham side, everywhere there is a company or a top 10 companies where you can perceive your future career in. So it depends on you as a person of what your career goals are and what your job opportunity you want to seek for. So yeah, that would be really my point of view with that question. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, no, that was great. And Herbert, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Yes, actually, at this point, London is known as the world FinTech hub. It's really difficult to think of the future of FinTech, how it's going to spread all over the globe. I mean, where are going to be the places that it grows more, but it's very much knowledge based, right? And if you want to think of it, it's very much naturally going to grow in places that you have access to talents, right? Just think of London, and that's why my perspective is that in future is still going to be the FinTech hub, because let's say in London we have 30 universities just in London, which includes very top universities like Imperial College, King's College, UCL, Queen Mary, and many other schools, right? And then we have all the cities around London, which includes Canterbury, we have Kent Business School and other schools, we have Colchester, Essex, we have Sussex in the south, Southampton very close, we got Oxford, Cambridge, and all of them having eyes on London, right? So because FinTech is very much knowledge-based, it has the advantage that finding a talent is not really difficult, right? When you want to run a business in London, right? That is one of the reasons that I think London can survive to be the world FinTech hub on one aspect. And then on the other hand, we also have a report by Ron Khalifa, Sir Ron Khalifa. I mean, you can read it online. He provided, actually, he led a report on how London can actually keep on being the world FinTech hub. He provided very good suggestions in that report, apparently with the team that he has been working on. And it seems that now people are very much savvy of that. That means people in London are very much taking that seriously. And just give you some few examples. Many of these gigantic online banks started in London, even though at some point, because they need investors, they moved to US. But let's say Monzo, Starling, whatever, all big names that you have heard about, they started in London. So it seems that still tradition is so strong. I mean, finance tradition in London is so strong that at least for at least 2-3 decades, I expect London still be one of the world's largest FinTech hub in the future.
Thank you. And that brings us to bang on 1 hour. So we will need to wrap up there. Thank you so much to everyone for asking questions and joining us today. Thank you so much to our panelists. You've all been brilliant, and it's been such a good topic of conversation because we've spoken about so many different things when it comes to FinTech and finance, and hopefully everyone's found it quite interesting to take part today. So yeah, just a huge thank you from Kent Business School to everyone. If you need any more information, contact me at KBS Alumni at kent.ac.uk, find us on LinkedIn, connect with us, make the use of all the services we have here at the university. And Sohaib and Shabanga, and I'm sure Herbert will be more than happy to connect with you as well. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.